The moment she found out he was going to be her supervisor on the upcoming business trip, the excitement she had carefully kept under control turned into something heavier. At the office, he was calm, professional, almost distant now, as if the night of the corporate party and the quiet coffees that followed had been carefully folded away and locked behind rules neither of them had spoken out loud. When he told her she would be joining him on a short trip to a mountain city for meetings with partners, his voice was neutral, his expression unreadable. She nodded, pretending it was just another assignment, while inside her thoughts raced. She told herself not to read into it, not to hope for something that could complicate everything, not to forget that he was her boss and that lines existed for a reason. The trip itself felt strangely formal at first. Airports, taxis, hotel lobbies, schedules printed and followed closely. Meetings went well, conversation stayed focused, and any personal topics were carefully avoided. Yet beneath that surface, tension quietly grew. She noticed how his eyes lingered for half a second too long when he thought she wasn't looking, how he made sure she was comfortable without making it obvious, how silence between them felt charged instead of empty. On the second evening, after finishing work earlier than expected, he suggested doing something normal, something that had nothing to do with contracts or presentations. Snowboards leaned against the wall of the hotel lobby, and the mountains outside glowed softly in the fading light. She hesitated only a moment before agreeing. On the slope, everything changed. Helmets on, boards under their feet, the world reduced to snow, wind, and movement. There were no titles here, no hierarchy, no office walls. Just two people moving side by side, sometimes falling, sometimes laughing, sometimes racing each other without keeping score. She felt lighter with every run, freer than she had in weeks. At one point, she lost balance and sat down hard in the snow, laughing breathlessly. He stopped immediately, slid back up to her, and held out his hand. When she took it, neither of them let go right away. The cold air burned their lungs, but the moment felt warm, steady, undeniable. They stopped near the edge of the slope where the view opened wide, mountains stretching endlessly beneath a pale sky. He took off his helmet, ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since the trip began, he stopped pretending. He told her he hadn't brought her on the trip to cross lines or to put her in an uncomfortable position, but because being near her without acting had become harder than being honest. He admitted that his feelings had grown quietly, responsibly, against his better judgment, and that the mountains felt like the only place where he could speak without hiding behind a role. She listened, heart racing, aware of every risk, every consequence, every reason to say nothing. Instead, she told him the truth too, that she had felt it from the start, that pretending indifference at work had been exhausting, that what scared her most wasn't what others might say, but how real this felt. They didn't kiss on the slope. They didn't need to. The confession itself changed everything. They stood there a little longer, boards pressed into the snow, wind brushing past them, knowing that whatever came next would require careful choices and honesty. When they finally rode down together, slower now, closer, it felt like the beginning of something deliberate, not reckless. The business trip would end, the office rules would return, and conversations would need to happen. But in that moment, surrounded by mountains and silence, they both knew that love doesn't always arrive conveniently. Sometimes it waits for the right place, the right movement, the right courage to be spoken out loud. The ride back to the hotel was quieter than before, but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that comes after honesty, when words are no longer hiding anything. She replayed his confession in her mind, every sentence measured, every pause careful, and felt a mix of warmth and fear settle in her chest. He walked beside her, not touching, not rushing, giving her space to breathe, to think. That restraint mattered more than any dramatic gesture. It told her that whatever this was, it wasn't impulse or escape. It was intentional. That evening, they sat in the hotel lounge, still in winter clothes, snow melting slowly at their feet. They talked openly for the first time without pretending it was just casual conversation. About boundaries. About work. About how complicated things could become if they handled this the wrong way. He told her he would never ask her to choose between her career and him, that if this continued, it would be on equal ground or not at all. She admitted that what scared her wasn't gossip or rules, but the possibility of losing something real by pretending it didn't exist. There was no pressure in his response, only understanding. He said they would move at her pace, even if that meant waiting. The next day, the business part of the trip ended. Meetings wrapped up, handshakes exchanged, obligations fulfilled. To anyone watching, it looked professional, controlled, ordinary. But between them, something had shifted permanently. Small glances carried meaning. Passing comments held warmth. When they boarded the flight home, she felt a quiet certainty settle in, not about outcomes, but about choice. She wasn't being pulled into something reckless. She was stepping toward something honest. Back at the office, reality returned in full color. Emails. Deadlines. Colleagues. Titles. Yet instead of tension, there was clarity. They agreed to talk openly, to set clear boundaries, to involve HR if needed, to do things the right way even if it took time. Love, they learned, didn't lose its intensity when treated carefully. It grew stronger. And every time she thought back to the slope, to the cold air and the open sky, she remembered the moment she realized that sometimes the bravest thing isn't breaking rules, it's choosing responsibility without giving up truth.